So much of what happens to Jon Snow in Game of Thrones stems back to him killing Qhorin Halfhand, but his reason for doing so in Season 2 is conveyed through a subtle understanding rather than an explicit agreement. Jon kills Qhorin in Game of Thrones Season 2, Episode 10, Valar Morghulis, surrounded by a group of wildlings taking them to Mance Rayder. Qhorin goads Jon into a fight, and it may seem perplexing at first glance. However, Qhorin insults Jon because he wants the boy to kill him. And Jon plays into his hand, going on to do exactly as Qhorin intends in Game of Thrones Season 3. Given Qhorin's reputation as one of the Night's Watch's most impressive rangers, there's a good chance he could have blocked Jon's blows or even defeated the younger Crow if he'd wanted to. However, the Halfhand does the math and realizes this is the best path forward. His plan is a bit clearer in the Song of Ice and Fire books, but the show offers enough context for Jon and the viewers to pick up on it. Qhorin Halfhand's plan for Jon Snow explained. He wants Jon to gain the wildlings' trust and respect. Qhorin Halfhand in Game of Thrones. Qhorin Halfhand seems angry with Jon Snow during their final fight, but that's because he wants Jon to push back and kill him, and he knows the boy won't do so without a reason. Qhorin realizes that Jon needs to gain the trust and respect of the wildlings, and he tells him as much 2 episodes earlier. Sadly, killing the Halfhand is the best way for Jon to get in the wildlings' good graces. That's why he antagonizes Jon during Valar Morghulis. Qhorin's final words, however, are a reminder that they're both still brothers of the Night's Watch. That's what clues Jon into Qhorin's true goal, for Jon to infiltrate the wildlings and make it back to Castle Black with information. He knows that both of them won't walk away from Mance, and Jon will give him a cleaner death than the wildlings, most of whom have every reason to hate Qhorin. Ygritte is already floating the idea of Jon joining the wildlings, and Qhorin knows Mance will give him a chance if he proves himself. This is all made clearer during a conversation between Qhorin and Jon in A Clash of Kings, during which the Halfhand says Qhorin is less upfront about this plan in the HBO show, but he does tell Jon that they could use someone on the inside, and to ensure that his men's deaths weren't for nothing. And his final sentiment that "we are the Watchers on the Wall" shows that he still views Jon as a brother of the Night's Watch, regardless of his prior insults. His plan pays off, as Jon is able to warn the Night's Watch before Mance's army descends on them. And the impact of this moment extends far beyond that storyline. Killing Qhorin Halfhand was a turning point for Jon Snow's story. His character arc in Game of Thrones would have been totally different. Killing Qhorin Halfhand marks a turning point in Jon Snow's Game of Thrones story, as it's the reason Jon is able to join the wildlings for a time. And even though he betrays them when the opportunity to return to Castle Black arises, his character arc would be totally different if he hadn't spent so much time among the free folk. It's not just that Jon wouldn't have survived the beginning of the story without Qhorin's sacrifice, he also wouldn't have gone on to sympathize with the wildlings, which is a crucial element of his narrative. Jon showing mercy towards the wildlings is why he's killed by his fellow brothers of the Night's Watch, and it's why he's able to unite the free folk and the North after he's resurrected. Considering how the wildlings help him retake Winterfell and fight the army of the dead, the outcomes of those battles can also be traced back to Qhorin's death. There's no way the Halfhand could have predicted how far his sacrifice would take Jon in Game of Thrones, but his gamble certainly does pay off for the Night's Watch and the North.